Welcome back, my little morning stars, to
What to Watch Now,
where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And in today's episode, we are talking about Lucifer Season 4. It almost died and then got resurrected by Netflix just in time. I couldn't imagine this show existing without Season 4. It's kind of crucial. It's probably one of the most important emotional developing, plot developing seasons of the show so far, so hopefully they get a season 5, because I thought this season was great. Now, this show is not CW bad, but in fact OG charmed good. That means the convos are emotionally heavy-handed without all the filler. Every time they talk, there is a sense of movement in, like I said, plot development or relationships in some way. Even the back and forth between Chloe and Lucifer, it makes sense. Like, emotions are fucking messy. There is no way in hell they will get solved in one day. And it makes sense the constant doubt when the idea of good and evil are being brought up and are so important to this particular relationship and the decisions they make. Now, I just want to go into a quickie synopsis for anybody that's not familiar with Lucifer. Lucifer Morningstar has decided he's had enough of being the dutiful servant in hell, technically he's the king, and decides to spend time on Earth to better understand humanity. He settles in Los Angeles, the city of angels. Actually, I don't think he gave a shit about humanity. He became a nightclub owner and was just very bored until he met a very hot detective, and now he's like a consultant for the LAPD, so that's really more what happened. But we're going to be covering in this particular episode the overall plot and problem of the season, what happens, the relationship, and just general like individual development between Lucifer and Chloe, Lucifer and Eve, yes, you heard me right, and Eve and Maz, yes, yes, I did actually just say that, as well as all the other side things going on. But before I do, just a quick reminder, if you would please subscribe to this podcast and help it grow, it would mean a lot to me, and maybe even consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. So, let's go into the overall plotline problem going on. So, in the last season, Lucifer and Chloe finally had a moment. They kissed, and then some people fucking died. It got messy, it got bad. And then his accidental, because this was the first human he had ever killed, his devil face came out. And Chloe got proof that he was not kidding. He really is the devil, but also the idea of his face just scared her. The magnitude of, like, I didn't get the impression she was particularly religious, but, I mean, even if you're not religious, to know that people's stories might be true, you're aware of them enough, she reacted in a understandable, like, she was terrified kind of way. So, accidentally, I would say, no, actually, she was sought out, so it wasn't accidental. A priest came to her and said, I know you heard about the devil, I believe you, we are pretty sure he is, in fact, the devil. And in the beginning of the episode, or the series, she is trying to help him return Lucifer back to hell. So she is betraying Lucifer initially, and this really causes a lot of blips in their relationship, obviously. As time goes on, that she is like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, I believe Lucifer's a good person, so on and so forth. And it kind of ends with this giant, like, almost potential, I don't want to say apocalypse, because they were more focused on getting a new king, and replacing Lucifer, and maybe just going back to hell, and then maybe coming back to Earth. I didn't get the I don't know, I kind of was confused what they were after, but there was demons, there was like a big grand finale, there was like another second Antichrist situation going on, so that's like the overarching idea, is that Lucifer is out and about, and some people want to put him back. So let's get into Lucifer and Chloe's relationship, which, God, it was so good this season. I like that we're finally at that part in the anime, as I like to jokingly call it, when, okay, you know I like you, you know you like me, but there's some type of barrier, and an understandable one, that's preventing us being together. Lucifer was so fucking cute in the beginning, him trying to dazzle her, take her on a date, trying to understand her feelings. He really has changed significantly, rather than just like we're told he's the king of hell, but we can only have comparison by what we knew of him in this earthly time he's been here. And he was very, like, apathetic before. He didn't really care about if people got hurt or not. He was a little bit sadistic, and here he is, like, gently waiting for someone to understand their feelings. Like, if that's not a 180 in, like, character development, I don't know what is. So he's trying to deal with this, and obviously he feels deeply fucking betrayed that when he finds out she was plotting against him. I liked that as time went on, while they couldn't quite get over each other, even with the introduction of Eve, and we will get there, like, you could tell there was, like, many episodes where while they were apart from each other, they were clearly madly in love with each other, and just kind of dealing with the, I guess, instead of the elephant in the room, the Eve in the room. But I really liked, ultimately, how it ended. So we're going to talk about how it ended with the plot development. So at the very end, what ultimately happens is one of the side things going on is Amenadiel and Linda, the therapist / like friend of everybody, accidentally ended up getting pregnant, and she's going to have a half angel baby. I still love when she's looking up at the fan and she realizes she's going to have a baby and she needs a baby-proof her house, but more than that, like, it's normal for moms to freak out about having a baby, but she realizes she goes, I do not have a baby-proof house for a flying baby! She, like, freaks out. So they have a little baby, and that's just, like, a side thing going on, but when he is born, some demons, one of them taking the place of actually Father Kinsley, the guy who was originally shouting the prophecy. I loved how he came in as the villain at the very end, but it technically wasn't him. It was a great way of kind of putting him into as, like, still a main evil character. Technically, it's not him anymore. So he steals the baby and he tries to get Lucifer to come down back to hell. Keep in mind, okay, I'll just summarize it, because if I get too into detail, it will get too convoluted, but it's very easy to. So when he steals this baby, he's going to try to get this baby to become, like, the second, devil, the second leader. Because apparently, the way hell was designed, no demon can rule it. Supernatural apparently didn't get the memo. And they want to have a celestial being, and a half angel's better than nothing. And because he's a baby, this demon can kind of, like, shape and mold him, almost kind of like an evil advisor that's secretly in control. That was, like, a very popular thing in Egypt, as well as across many other countries throughout history, where it's like there's, like, a child king or queen, and they're too young, so their advisor by default is in a way controlling everything and ruling without technically being royal. So that was his endgame. And Lucifer has to take on his evil form and kind of fully accept who he is, how he looks. That's the biggest thing. It's the vanity part and what it represents. And tell all the demons to go back home and saves the baby, right? And I like when he has certain conversations with Chloe where, like, she later goes on to, at first she's scared of his face, but she does later go on to accept who he is. And I kind of liked his fuck you, it's too late type of attitude. I don't feel like he was being bitter. He was patient with her for a very, very, very long time. It makes sense that he, at one point in his, like, trying to get through, like, you know how there's different stages of grief or different stages of understanding. He was at the point where he was like, you know what? I think I realized I want to be someone who is truly, I have at least enough confidence to say that I want to be loved for who I am. And what if I like a little bit of my evil side? What if that is a part of me? You know what I mean? So that's, like, his first process. But as time goes on, he starts to realize, like, maybe he's a lot more evil than he realized. Maybe he doesn't want to be that evil. Maybe he truly is this weird bridging gap between good and bad. I mean, he said it himself, and I love all this, like, kind of religious supernatural type television being told, because they're changing the perspective of the stories, like especially with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. We see Lilith was in an abusive relationship with Lucifer. That was really interesting, how she was manipulated to become kind of the mother of the demons and be the person she is. In this, he in fact is someone who was chosen to be the scapegoat. He's tired, and that's why he took the vacation in the first place. He's like, I didn't ask for this. I am playing a part for his quote-unquote father's manipulative play. And he's realizing, I think there's a part of him that, I don't even know if it's like a deep down evil. Like, they said he was an angel to begin with, and we see that angels have free wills. And that's the biggest lie I've noticed in, like, every story when it comes to just, like, religious, like the Bible specifically and supernatural that they always, like, focus on, is this idea that angels are purely good or demons are purely bad. I would say unanimously demons are always just kind of blanketly evil. But I think everybody has the choice in the decisions they make, and if you weigh that against the situation at hand, you might think you were on the right, but you're still killing someone, or you're still X, Y, and Z, and it's still technically bad or evil. So you're not purely innocent, purely good, without any, you know what I'm saying? So I think it was really interesting that he was, like, kind of grappling with this idea of, like, okay, so I'm the scapegoat, right? But what if I'm not all evil? I think a part of him likes it, not, again, out of being born of it, but maybe being forced to be without it for so long. It's a little bit nice to give into temptation. I mean, even Eve herself, as a human, as someone who's able to make decisions technically innocent, it's the freedom to do what you want, and that's evil. You know what I mean? Even Lucifer himself didn't kill any humans while he was on Earth. He was totally, I mean, he was a little naughty. I'm not saying he wasn't doing that, but he technically was, he could have murdered thousands, hundreds. He could have been a serial killer, and he wasn't doing that. But ultimately, he's not this, like, I thought it was really fucked up when Chloe, she acted innocent, and it might have just been subconscious, but at one point in the relationship, she tried to actually go on the date. She was like, okay, I'm into him. And their first date was her trying to get him to go to a soup kitchen and be good. She kept spouting that narrative, like, well, you're changing, you're being good. And I liked when he was like, you know what, fuck you. I don't like the way I feel with Eve because she wants me to be this devil, to really give in to my bad side. But, you know, you're not that great either. You want me to be this, like you can't accept the other parts of me either. So I loved that character development. I don't blame Chloe, though, if I'm being honest with you, that in the very beginning she had her, like, she was terrified and trying to process it. That makes complete sense. She even tried to talk against Father Kinley, but she went back and forth a little bit for a while. And in the end, she did choose him. She got over it. She's seen his face enough time. But like, and this is not me shitting on Chloe because I actually really like her. But at the very end, when she sees him in his full devil form, she says, I was afraid that if you gave in to all this, you would want to leave Earth. And, like, she was trying to basically be like, I love you. I was afraid you were going to leave me. You can't leave me. And I'll be like, girl, let's look back at the evidence of the last, like, 9 episodes. I think you've only you've always been in love with him, but understandably, you were worried as someone who represents good that if you were going to be in love with someone who could potentially be, like, you know, someone who could assault people, someone who could attack them, do torturous things, and that's not someone you could love. So you were trying to understand, like, is he capable of it? Are the stories real? What is his past? Can I accept this? It's kind of like when someone falls in love with someone who, you know, I'm trying to give a less dramatic example. Let's say drugs, right? Not a that bad person if you've done drugs, but let's say you become sober and in your drug past, you did some things that were not nice. You stole, you deceived people, and that's not a part of yourself that you're happy about, but that's not who you are anymore. Can your new, you know, spouse, whoever's with you, accept you for the new person, that person, like, accept that that is your past, that is what you were capable, but that you're not going to do anymore? Can they trust that? Can they believe that? So really great, interesting things going on there. I especially love, and this is very important, that whatever anybody, the characters, but Lucifer especially, were going through, when they were making changes or decisions towards Earth or humanity or what they wanted to do, there were physical repercussions for that. That is so fucking interesting for me. It's kind of like something you like hear it and it kind of feels a part of a lot of TV CW, or not CW, I'm sorry to keep throwing that name around, just general supernatural type shows. You're used to hearing that, but think about that idea. It gives the magnitude of the decisions they make so much fucking more weight. You can't just simply say, oh, I think I'm mad at this guy. And I hate that idea that Lucifer giving in to hurting someone, especially when every time he was hurting them, it was for the sake of them having hurt someone else, like he was bringing justice, that somehow makes him evil by throwing the first punch. Like, that fucking sucks. Like, fuck you. Especially when a lot of these angels, even in this fictional world, were warriors. They're punching people. Their face isn't turning scaly and red. But as he gave into these things, and the temptation was there, like he was too strong, too capable, it was too delicious, as he would probably say, it was turning his body into, like, part of me thinks that he just, on a vanity note, doesn't like the way he looks as a red, scaly, weird bat creature, but he's afraid that when he looks this way, there's no going back. He can't just look this way. I wonder if it would be different if humans just didn't think anything of seeing him in his devil face and his wings and thought nothing of it. Maybe he could be okay with it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure if he hated that because he hated it or because he knows other humans hate it. I mean, he did have a huge... I love that that realization that he just hates himself. That's the biggest back and forth thing. For all his cockiness, for all his arrogance, he hates himself. And isn't that funny how that is so common? Like, damn, I don't know why. Were we born all hating ourselves? Because I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I've dealt with that. People I know have dealt with that. That's just like one of the most common things. If you break down everything, if you think you don't deserve something, it always goes back to this idea of like, I don't like myself. And it's like, why? Why were we born with this? Or what the fuck happened in between that made us have that severed connection? Because it's really fucking common at the core of a lot of our problems for most people I've come across. Again, I can't blanketly speak about you, but I mean, let me know on Twitter, like, or email or whatever, like, have you ever personally gone through a time period where you, like, disliked yourself that much? And, you know, what was that like? What made you change your opinion? Or what made you realize that you went through that? Or what made you realize, like, this XYZ caused you to hate yourself? I'm very curious. This is like a sideline. Another, so that's why the whole physical part was really interesting, because not only did we get to see the ramifications for his decisions, but it was a much more beautiful metaphor when, like, okay, so he fully, at one point, transforms into the devil, like, fully, wings, everything, before the grand finale. And he's having this emotional conversation with Chloe, and he suddenly realizes he doesn't like himself. He has this huge revelation, and as he's saying this and looking at her, meeting her eye, and she's not looking away, she was looking away at first, I might add, that his face, everything went away, it burned away when he made that conclusion, that he finally stopped pushing himself away. There was an acceptance, and he was able to have control over himself again. But then it was even more beautiful when, at the very end, this is also going on with the big overall plot, do Chloe and Lucifer end up together? They admit their feelings to each other, they say they love each other, he tells all the demons to go back home, but he has the realization that the prophecy is true. That the first person he ever loved, because the prophecy is, the devil will walk on earth again, and he will become united with his first love, and then all, like, hell will, like, relinquish, all evil will relinquish. And at first, the thought was Eve. I love that Eve was, like, his ex-girlfriend. But in fact, his first love is technically Chloe. So they admit they love each other, it's really beautiful, but he makes, and this is how well written it is in this idea, Chloe would want to be with someone who is this good, this loving to humanity, that they would make this sacrifice. This is the person she admires and would be into. So it was a good decision of Lucifer to be written this way, and for Lucifer himself. But he realizes, okay, well, these demons came. They are not going to stop. They realize that I don't want to be in hell. They're going to keep coming if they don't have their king. I have to go back and be their king. So technically, they are not together right now. It's absolutely clear they have a beautiful kiss, but he makes the decision to go back to hell, basically leaving Chloe. I love it. I hope they have a season 5. They have to. If they end it here, it's a pretty good ending. It makes sense. But when he goes to kiss her and he goes to leave, his wings come out, and they are his beautiful angelic wings we saw in previous seasons that he's more known for. So Lucifer, it's like in making this beautiful self-sacrificing decision, he's truly his best godly, heavenly, angelic self, which is still fucked up because all of this at the end of the day, which is why it's not satisfying for me when our girl Ella, and we'll talk about this later, but at one point is like, oh, God gives us the strength to overcome these decisions. And I'm like, God is the playwright to a fucked up thing that he could change. Watching this kid he loved so much go through these up and down moral decisions. These moral decisions don't even have to be there. He could allow Lucifer to finally have happiness he deserves, get rid of demons, help people out, stop death, cancer, everything. I mean, it's still like that ultimate daddy issue shit that they jokingly bring up in like every type of supernatural show totally makes sense. I love it. It's perfect. So, let me just make sure if I mean anything. One last thing I want to say. And I would definitely say this is the overarching idea that we'll talk when we talk about the other relationships right now, is the danger in not sharing your emotions until it's too late. I get that people were processing things, but because they waited too fucking long, all this shit went down. The whole Eve bringing the demons about, all this shit would have not happened. Father Kinsley was imprisoned. He was going to stay there. It was pretty much stopped. That was a dead-end plot right there. If Chloe had finally shared with Lucifer how she feels and vice versa, and they just fucking worked out, maybe it just like openly said, hey, I'm into you, but let's think about this, like give me a second, I think it would have turned out better. None of this would have happened. I mean, it just shows like, girl, like you like, even when he was with Eve, all I could think was like, Chloe, what did you think was gonna happen? This man is like delicious as hell, great ass. He's a very charming guy. Like in any relationship, if you wait too long, someone else is gonna come around. And again, to clarify, I don't think someone should suck it up and just move quickly to the next point in their relationship if they're not ready. People do deserve time. But I mean, when we look at the baby being developed in Linda's belly, and even before that, before she knew she was pregnant, that means for like a fucking year this went on. A year! Like, it makes sense that it was a little too late. And that went on for many regards. We'll talk about that too. So, we've covered everything with Lucifer and Chloe. Love them. Beautiful in a way. Sweet togetherness. Happy ending. But it's happy because it's for humanity. Unfortunately, not for Chloe and Lucifer. Also, Trixie was like not in this show season, like barely at all, which I thought was interesting, but that's okay. Let's be real, it's kind of funny because Lucifer's almost like Castle in the sense that we have this great partnership, like a strong female cop and the quirky kind of a little in their face consultant that is not a cop, somehow magically is on the job. But Castle, I would say, was more focused on the case itself, and then there was the plot development, quirky little comments to each other, and so on and so forth. While this, by the way, I felt that the killers and stuff like that were really poorly put together, the cases, but the idea of what's going on were the most interesting. I wish someone who, unfortunately, whoever they had to cover that particular issue was not a good writer, because the idea of like a bee killer being stabbed and once in the witness protection for like a mafia situation, or like someone who was involved with a bank robbery and vintage cars, all of that was fucking interesting. But they clearly had more of their attention towards relationships like Lucifer and Chloe, which I can't complain. That's really more why I'm watching the show. So it's interesting where people put their attention and the right calls they make in that way. So Lucifer and Eve, halfway through the season, we get introduced to motherfucking Eve. I love the corniness of her when she shows up to the club in an all-white dress and she goes, oh wow, so many options. Can I have an apple teeny? Ooh, I see what you did there, Eve. I see you. So Eve was wonderfully cast. She was perfect. She felt like Eve to me. Because while Eve is like the oldest fucking human in existence, the thing is, when you think about Eve, she would be kind of naive, a sense of earnestness, and I think that logically that would have changed in time, but I'm totally okay with her keeping that general sense about her. That is how she was created, to be like that. Her whole background was so interesting. Like she even said, I'm not even a full human. I'm a subhuman made from another human. And my whole job was to please Adam. And how, again, the whole God thing, very fucked up. And what ended up happening was she did whatever she could to please Adam. And unfortunately, I love the storyline that he could never get over his first wife, Lilith, the mother of demons. That was so funny. How, like, apparently, I guess Maze, technically that's her mom, and she's like, yeah, she fucking sucked, like Maze was dealing with that. And Eve was, like, we got along, Adam and me, but at the end of the day, I wasn't feeling like myself. The first time I felt like myself was when, and I love this too, instead of her taking a bite from the apple, it was a banana, and it was a large banana, and she's full on referring to Lucifer's penis, and I'm like, girl, okay, that rewrites the story in a much more logical sense. So when she met Lucifer, Lucifer allowed her to be herself. It's not a matter of corruption. He just gave her that freedom to be who she wanted to be. And no wonder she's so in love with him. She feels like her best self when she's with him. So she shows up, and at first Lucifer's a little happy to not only see Eve, a familiar face, but someone who accepts him and the way he looks for his devil face at the perfect, most convenient time when Chloe just needs more time. Who wants to be with someone who can't fully accept you? It's hard to hear. Even if they're like, well, I need time. It's like you want to, in your fairy tale relationship, think that they will just blanketly accept you right away. And Eve was that blanket fairy tale relationship situation going on and how she responded to him. At first, she tried to trick him into the relationship by hiding a necklace to prolong a case, but when she ultimately was just honest, we get a long time when they're together. I mean, they might have been together for like 6-7 months for all we know, and they're full on having orgies together. Eve's so funny, like whipping the air with a whip, but then being like, everyone has to keep hydrated, and like keeping in that traditional sweet sense. She was great because she just wanted fun and choices. I loved how she got bored at one point and would meet everyone at the pearly gates to hear their stories. I thought that was so interesting. Overall, it makes sense that she would want to leave heaven. I love that they just touch on it briefly, but when Amenadiel, oh my gosh, you know who I'm saying, the angel, he brought up the point that she might not be able to get back in heaven. And she was kind of freaked out a little bit. I wonder if that's why she held on to Lucifer a little bit. She's aware that if she's not with Lucifer, she's not quite sure of her fate. But ultimately, I think it really was more about Lucifer, because when he tries to break up with her, they were together for a time, but she can totally sense he's into Chloe. He tries to leave her because of the prophecy situation. And I love the whole him trying to be a douche, a gamer bro, making out with other girls, all this other stuff to try to get her to pull away from him. But she will not let go, and she ends up being the downfall for all humanity, potentially, because she kidnaps Father Kinsley. She kills him because he tries to attack her. And then she tells him to go tell the other demons. I love that she knew right away he would be going to hell. And that's when the demons overtake his body, overtake a lot of other people. And she was the one that introduced everyone coming there because she wanted the demons to come bring Lucifer back. So in a way, she was betraying him and the whole hell concept, not unlike Chloe. Personally, I want to turn to Lucifer and be like, both of these girls want you back in hell. Maybe find someone new, someone you don't know at all, like not even an ex-girlfriend or anything. So there is a sense of like forgiveness there with Eve. So like, no, he's not forever mad at her, but she couldn't let go for a little while. It was interesting to see them in a relationship together, see Lucifer kind of having fun with his more dangerous side, but in the end he wasn't happy, and it was just kind of like a stand-in till he really made touch with his feelings with Chloe. But now, this is the more interesting part that I felt connected to, was Eve and Maz. Oh my god, I next level have fallen in love with Maz. First of all, she looks like a baby Holly Berry. Like, she's a gorgeous woman. And I love that she's gone from just a blanketly evil demon, had a problem with Lucifer, having a problem with Chloe, everything, to, like, really giving a shit if someone dies. And having a best friend human that I love when she was, like, stalking pregnant Linda in the shadows with her, like, knife. I like that. This is something really interesting I think Lucifer did was, in a lot of these type of shows, these kitschy type shows, especially supernatural kitschy type shows, all the side characters live their whole entire fucking life around the main character to the point that it's unrealistic, where it's not about what their problems are going through. They might touch on it for a second. It's always like, oh my god, main character, tell me what's going on. I've been waiting around this kitchen just to hear what you're going through. And they changed that up this season where everyone kind of started to be aware that Lucifer was off doing his own thing. Maybe they should too. And that involves somebody like Maz who got into bounty hunting. Not only did it perfectly work for her, and I love seeing how skinny she is, but because she's a demon, she's got like superhuman strength. And she was so fucking funny when she talked about how they used as a torturing method. They don't know how babies are exactly born, but if it's anything like, they use it as a form of torturing. They're like, oh my god, there's, she got all excited. Are babies born into blood and gore? And she's so wonderful. And she really found herself. I barely even see her with Lucifer this episode or this season. She's really developed a whole different set of friends and goals and ideas, and it was the best decision for her because Lucifer doesn't really need her around that much. They're still friends. There's no animosity between each other, but she along the way realizes she has a tendency to want to follow. She made the right choice by becoming a bounty hunter and becoming her own person, but even Linda pointed out, like, it's so important for Maz that Linda made a point of saying, listen, even though me and my boo thing, we need to have a little bit of space for our little angel baby, you are a part of this family. I am still your best friend. Do not get that twisted. But in all honesty, maybe you need your own connection. Each connection she makes is a bridging point to develop a little more sense of her own independence. And she ends up kind of weirdly finding that in Eve. I loved that. The connection was so organic. It didn't just feel like, ooh, Eve, boom, 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 boom. It was like, Eve is a pretty accepting person. I mean, just seeing Lucifer's face and not having any horrified reaction as is, that makes complete sense. Which, by the way, this is a side note. If they dated, it's interesting that it was Lucifer kind of hinted at that was the first time she'd ever seen his devil face in all the thousands of years they previously knew each other. So that's pretty interesting. But anyway, Eve accepts people for who they are. She can understand the duality of someone's personality. And I think she is a little more leaned towards the bad. So Maz is that perfect person. Because Maz has some humans she wants to save. I don't think she's down with the apocalypse or anything like that. She would never hurt a baby, these type of things. But she loves to beat up. She doesn't want to wait for a warrant. That's the whole idea she was trying to share with Dan, that idea of like, let's get shit done now. She's a very action-oriented person. And here's Eve. That would be the perfect mix for her. Because Eve might be a little naughty and like to do some fun things, but same thing. She is not into hurting an innocent baby. She calls out the demon immediately for that. She's not into hurting anyone. She's sad if someone dies. So, I mean, good person that dies. I just want to point that out because she was with Lucifer torturing people. The situation that ended up happening ultimately with Maz and Eve made me just feel for fucking Maz like nobody's business. What ended up happening in the end is she was lying to herself that she was into Eve. She eventually admitted it. And she finally called out Eve and was like, you know what? I've been helping you this whole time, but I'm in another situation where I'm benefiting someone else's situation. They won't see my own feelings, and I think I'm over it. So she sets a boundary. She puts her foot down, not unlike Lucifer. Really loved those points in the show. But what ended up happening was the very end, after the whole like almost Antichrist apocalypse situation going on, they have a conversation, and Eve basically is like, girl, I know you're into me. And you know what? In any other circumstance, I'd be into you too. but, like, I need some fucking time to figure out who I am. I know you say you will accept me for that, and I'm down with that, but, like, I might make it's actually not unlike Maze and what she was previously going through, but she's like, I might find myself molding to you again. Like, I need some time to figure that shit out if we were to ever get together. And she kind of gives her this, I love when Maze has this emotionless face. Eve kisses her on the cheek and then leaves, and you can just see Maze is like, some more fucking bullshit. Are you fucking kidding me? I followed Lucifer. That was a dead end. I tried to develop a new friendship. That was a dead end. I even tried to have a romantic love. That was a dead end. I wonder if they have a season 5, if Maze will be even more cold-hearted and distant and reluctant of friendships. Because it took her a lot to get to this point. And there's been enough proven disappointments. You know what I mean? That's just a thought I'm putting out there. So I felt bad. Like, I don't feel like Eve was a player or being an asshole. She just unfortunately is like a free-spirited tornado going through, wrecking people's lives. But she's ultimately not trying to do anything harm. I don't normally say that. But Maze did not deserve that fucking bullshit. I felt for her. I really hope she finds someone she's into in the next season, because I think she has a lot to offer in the relationship. She would be a badass girlfriend, I think, or, I mean, I don't know if she's bi. Is she bi, or is she just lesbian, or I just want to make sure I get the sexual orientation correctly. Whoever she ends up being with, no matter the gender, I think she would be an amazing companion. And she's gotten to the point where she's willing to see people's different signs and call them out if it's bullshit, accept them if they're going through something, and not just because she's blanketly okay with everything. Am I expressing this correctly? Does that make sense? So, loved all of that kind of one relationship leaking to the next. Some just little small side notes I want to point out. Thought it was really interesting, the whole Ella and Dan situation. I'm sorry to say this, but, like, of side characters, I love Ella. Oh my god, I love her. She's funny. She was great as a kind of, she would always, like, it's like I said before with Castle being more crime-oriented and the relationship being the side, with this relationship being the predominant note between Lucifer and Chloe. Ella and her, like, forensics over whatever crime scene was always a more of a metaphor for whatever Lucifer and Chloe were going through heavily for many episodes. Kind of an example, whenever they would call out a criminal, it was reflecting what they were going through at that time. So Ella is really great in that way. I think she just independently was interesting. I loved everything about her. But motherfucker, I hate Dan. I really don't like Dan. He ultimately always makes the wrong decision out of grief. He's big fucking asshole, and I think he says he's such a good guy, but he has a tendency to kick people down when they are down. He sucks. He fucking sucks. But Ella, and they had a little hookup for a second. I liked that Ella, I mean, he even sold Lucifer out. I mean, he just fucking sucks. But Ella, though, I thought she had a great overall concept she was battling with the whole entire season, because this show is so entrenched or drenched, whatever the term would be, with the idea of good and evil. That's like the main thing people are focusing on. That. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Does it even fucking matter? And Ella is someone who's religious. So in the very beginning, again, Dan fucking was there, who said this mean, horrible thing to her that made her take off her cross. So fucked up. And she ends up really struggling with her religious beliefs, trying to have fun, do drugs, wonder if any of it means anything. And it starts to make her more and more and more upset, because it's not enough release to be like, I guess it doesn't mean anything, so I can just do whatever I want, because she's still holding on to that idea. She ends up ultimately having the conclusion that God gives us strength. God's not meant to clean up the messes that we're going through, but he gives us strength to get through them. Some, like, I don't know. I'm not very satisfied with that as an idea on a personal note, but I'm happy Ella found her way back to something that's important to her. You know, we see her put on her cross again. We see her have some sort of conclusion. I liked even her little, like, tryst with Dan, it being hot, but her kind of putting a barrier between him for her own, like, she made the right decision for her and her emotions and what she was going through. So I really loved her whole sideline. So yeah, I think I covered everything. Oh, yeah, no, Devil's being a scapegoat. Yep, talked about it. Okay. Guys, loved talking about this as usual. Please do not forget to subscribe. Tell me what you think on Twitter. All the links are down below. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. But above all, have a lovely day. I love you in the most platonic way possible. Bye!